Over the next 15 minutes, Simon and I would like to share with you our view of how you can win in this rapidly changing world. The world, in particular Dubai, is changing at an unprecedented pace. We've seen new regulations introduced, pressures on margins, consolidation of advisor firms and provider firms, changing service models, and the wide-scale adoption of new technologies. So who will be the winners? And what can you do to ensure that you're on the winning team?
Whilst everyone talks about change, change is generally driven by regulation as opposed to people's own actions. If we look back in the UK, commission disclosure started back in the 90s, but the real catalyst was the RDR introduction in 2013, and this seemed to spark regulation around the world. We saw Hong Kong introduce GN 15 and 16, Singapore introducing their own fares regulation, and then the Isle of Man in 2019 with this conduct of business, and finally with BOD 49 that came into force in October the 15th, 2020. What does this drive? It drives consolidation, and we're seeing a lot of advisor firms merging and the bigger firms getting bigger, and that's quite normal. You've got the benefits of scale in terms of cost, the efficiency of having a centralised administration service, greater access to new technology because technology costs, and with that is the ability to find new opportunities, greater reach around the world. You're not now restricted to where you operate in terms of finding new clients. And has COVID accelerated this technology? The answer's got to be yes. Who on the 1st of January 2020 would have been talking about Zoom? DocuSign, etc. Tools that we're now using on a day-to-day basis. And we are seeing new entrants into the market. But always be careful, all that glitters is not gold. We talked about advisor consolidation, and let's look at what impact that's really going to have. This has been going on for quite a number of years, but again has been driven faster by regulatory changes. The big change to me will be those looking towards ongoing commissions as opposed to initial commissions. And we have seen firms now for the last 3 to 4 years concentrate on assets under management as opposed to the typical indemnity commission. Having a bigger operation improves efficiencies, cost ratios, everything else. And therefore, by having a centralised model whereby you have one large administration unit servicing the sales around the world makes a lot of sense. COVID again has helped and driven technology and consolidation, and for brokers to adapt to working in new ways. We've all had to adapt and adapt very quickly. It's quite normal now that an IFA will send an application online as opposed to by post. If he is dealing by any form of paperwork, then he will send it by DocuSign. You really do worry what's going to happen to the courier companies going forward as we all move to an online basis. IFAs are having to get used to dealing digitally and not face to face. And for some that becomes very difficult. Depending on different cultures, they obtain trust through personal connections, and trying to find new clients on the back of a Zoom call can be difficult and off-putting for them. Regulations such as BOD 49 and conduct of business in the Isle of Man can lead to both direct and indirect cost increases, and therefore it will become more difficult for the smaller IFA firms to survive and prosper going forward. So we will naturally see much more in the M&A and partnerships and movement of consultants as time progresses. Has there been any impact on the regulators with these new regulations, and why did they come about? It was clear from conversations with the regulators that they were looking for better outcomes for customers and also for accountability from IFAs. We now have things such as a KID, key information document, and illustrations that clearly mark out the charges and remuneration that go with the sales process. We have seen mergers already in regulators. We saw Hong Kong move from 3 to 1 regulators a couple of years ago. The Isle of Man likewise moved to a single regulator. And now we're informed that both ESCA in the UAE and the Insurance Authority are having talks and looking to merge. It would be nice though if we had a global standard around the world in order to protect customers and get rid of jurisdictional arbitrage that exists currently. Do we think these changes in regulations will have an impact on providers? For those that have been around for a number of years, you would have seen a lot of the household names disappear over the last few years. And I think that will continue. Why are we seeing so many of the traditional names exit the offshore market? Some of it can be put down to de-risking of the parent company. And I think we'll see more and more of this happen. We'll see more and more mergers and acquisitions over the next few years. We'll also see a lot more competition, and we're seeing that through the likes of platforms. We ourselves own Arden, and other new entrants in the market operating out of different jurisdictions. However, let the buyer beware. The cost profile will also change. There will need to be major investment in technology in order to survive. So who do we think will succeed and win in the new environment? Scale is important, but scale alone will not be a winner. You both need focus and ambition. You've got to be able to embrace new technology and willing to refresh it on a regular basis. You've got to listen to your market. You've got to listen to IFAs. You've got to listen to customers as to what they want. And you've got to look at your service and keep looking at your service and keep looking to improve. Technology, we hear a lot about fintech, but fintech on its own will not succeed. You need both fintech and customer service, real people. Those go hand in hand, and without each other, they won't succeed.
Thank you, Simon. So how is RL360 and Friends Provident International responding? We continue to work with our advisors to support them through this period of change. At our hearts, we value relationships which have stayed strong in our virtual world. We embrace the opportunities that technology has thrust upon us, and we maintain our focus. This is all we do. We're in it for the long term, and we have a strong desire to grow. For our group, which includes RL360, Friends Provident International and Arden International, we will look to technology as a key differentiator, but this is balanced with a drive for a consistency of service across all our brands. We will also look for further acquisitions, either transformational, large-scale company acquisitions, the like of Friends Provident International, bolt-ons, providing access to markets, licenses, or additional scale, or diversification, broadening our services and product range to complement our group.
"2020 was always going to be a challenging year. What with the trade wars in the Far East, a few indiscretions by President Trump in Iraq, and of course the looming US presidential elections and Brexit. But our sales numbers have held up incredibly well, and funnily enough, when COVID struck at the end of March, our sales have actually increased as the year has progressed. Both brands will continue to operate in the UAE, and in certain markets we will have different propositions and different products. We are embarking on a number of major projects. As I spoke previously about technology being a key and a winner, we have a digital engagement project, data warehouse, and a new policy administration system. And we look forward to working with like-minded IFAs, as we already do, in the future and many years to come.